Yo, what's good? It's Miss Stora. Listen, y'all, Baldur's Gate 3 is my most anticipated video game of all time so far. And today I just wanted to make a quick video about why that is. You know, just going into detail a bit on what exactly has me so excited for this game personally, given what I've played myself in early access for like, wow, over 2 years at this point. Man, it's crazy. And just what we've seen from like developer live streams and trailers and things like that as well. So with that being said, this isn't like a review or impressions of the game in terms of what we've gotten to play in Act 1 so far. So this video isn't going to be formatted in that way. This video by its nature is going to be mostly positive, right? But that doesn't mean that the game is perfect at all. There are things about it that could be improved, and I myself, as well as many fans during early access, are always submitting that feedback to Larian Studios. So it's not going to be mentioned here. Besides, there's already some videos out there, probably on YouTube anyways, talking about in what ways this game needs to do to be better. So this video is not going to be that. This is just a warning so that people don't think I'm trying to make this game out to be something that it's not, which is perfect. This is all just my opinion, so let's go ahead and get into it. So why is Baldur's Gate 3 so damn good in my opinion? Well, imagine the best aspects of all your favorite RPGs just thrown into one game and cranked up to 11. I'm not kidding you, that's what this game feels like to me. I'm talking about aspects such as companions that are so enjoyable to interact with and written so well that even though they're just NPCs in a video game, getting to know them, their stories, doing side quests for them, and even potentially pursuing a relationship between them and your created character, it oftentimes takes precedence over the main story quest in terms of interest to you. I'm talking about these companions being, just done so well to the point where your relationships with these companions, friendship or otherwise, resonates with you emotionally on like a real level, just like in games like Dragon Age and Mass Effect. And I've always considered that like a telltale sign of a truly amazing RPG. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it can get me to care about its characters and its story, more importantly, surrounding the companions that you adventure with in a truly deep way, I'm always gonna remember that game, and that's what's present here in Baldur's Gate 3. So next, let's talk about the character customization and just choice in general truly mattering in like every aspect in this game, even in more than just combat. You know what I'm saying? Like you would see in games such as Divinity Original Sin 2 or Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Your race, class, subclass, even stat selection are gonna often come up in dialogue and dynamic events in cutscenes. Making it feel like, it's rewarding as hell to put your everything into creating a truly unique character just the way you want to. Like that's all your own. The choices that you make in dialogue are also going to shape the story as it develops in the world around you in impactful and meaningful ways. We've already seen that, so far with how the game's been developed with just Act 1, so there's no reason we shouldn't expect that going forward. For example, right, the choices that you make early on in this area called the Grove could drastically impact options and paths that are available to you to progress the story, as well as the repercussions or benefits of those choices. They're going to echo throughout a decent portion of the game itself, it seems. This has me mad excited because, one, there's so much replay value here in seeing how options you didn't pick during your first playthrough end up playing out and seeing how drastically different things could be. And two, it makes the meticulous just like crafting of your character and careful consideration of choices that you make, it makes them feel much more heavy and significant to you, which is a massive factor in just helping you melt into a video game in terms of immersion. That's like one of just the most excellent things about Baldur's Gate 3 to me. When you play, if you can allow yourself to get soaked into the story, and the game makes it easy for you, I ain't gonna lie, it makes it easy for you, but when you allow yourself to just melt and get soaked into the game in terms of immersion, you lose track of time. It almost has like a time sink effect similar to games like Civilization, you know what I mean? But from a role-playing perspective, it's truly something special. And as I even mentioned, let's get into the enjoyable combat. this enjoyable combat this game has based off of D&D 5th, Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, that just, it makes pulling off a strategy or just narrowly escaping death in a tough fight, a fight that truly came down to the wire, it just hits you. I don't know any other way to describe it, you know what I'm saying? A good example, like I was playing this game recently co-op with my wife, right? And we would end up to a point in fights where I was like, hey, you know, it's okay, babe. Let's just go ahead and reload the save and try again. But she was like, no, she's the type to never give up. So she's like, no, we're going to keep playing and we're going to turn this around until there's a TPK, a total party kill. And somehow we turned what looked to be an impossible situation around. And, you know, putting our brains and our characters' possible actions together led to some of the best and most remarkable combat encounters I've ever had. Even better than some of RPG's greatest games, like, you know, Soulsborne games like Elden Ring, or to use turn-based games as an example, let's go Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest games, Persona games. Some of the combat here has been more satisfying than any other turn-based RPG I've ever played. And that's not to say I've only done one or two co-op playthroughs with my wife, so I'm not saying that, oh, multiplayer combat is what makes this game, because duh, any game is amazing if it's fun with friends. That's not the case here. Most of my playthroughs have been by myself, and what I've mentioned in this combat section in that example echoes through even if you're playing the game solo. Now I know that when I mentioned all that, right, there's a lot of RPGs that might have already have those aspects in them to a certain level, and they do them well, right, or even amazing. But for me, it's just how high of a level that Baldur's Gate 3 does all those things and puts them together in one massive game that makes it so dope and impressive. I'm serious. I've played more RPGs than I can count, and I'm consistently blown away, you know, with just how often Baldur's Gate 3 can outdo some of these other games in these areas. You throw all of what I've summarized so far together with some absolutely banging graphics. I mean it, man. This game is just beautiful, great sound design, solid voice acting, and a story set in Faerun and the Forgotten Realms setting, just teeming, just filled with interesting lore that already exists for the devs to pull from. And I mean, if this little summary that I've done so far doesn't do it for you, I don't know what's going to convince you. But for real though, keep in mind, and this is all just my opinion, of course, right? But what I currently find to be the greatest RPG video game of all time is right now Divinity Original Sin 2. So you would think, oh, maybe this Miss Dora is just like a long time Larian Studios fanboy or something like that. You know, the developers for this game, Baldur's Gate 3. But no, you know, not really. Divinity Original Sin was the first time I played a game that belonged to this development team, and it managed to dethrone Dragon Age Origins, which was my previous champion in terms of my favorite and what I consider to be the best RPG video game prior, right? So why am I mentioning that? I'm mentioning that to say that if Larian Studios has done it once before, and by done it once before, I mean create an incredibly interesting RPG that releases into early access, to then take seriously with love and care for the franchise as well as their fans, all that feedback presented to them during early access to improve a game significantly in several ways, to where on launch it becomes considered an incredible game across the board critically, then obviously, right, they've done that once before. I would think obviously with more funding, more fan support, and the world of Faerun and the Forgotten Realms at their disposal in terms of lore and writing, well, I think they're in a position to do it again, right? And unlike how hype typically works for a game, right? How hype works for most games, we see some trailers, or we see some gameplay, some press releases, whatever, right? Maybe even a demo for a few hours. But no, for Baldur's Gate 3, we've played it, and by we've played it, I mean we've played it. 15 hours or more for some people. Like that, I find a hard time. I would have a hard time imagining someone on their very first playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3 not knowing any of the game events. Even if they're a D&D player, like I would have a hard time imagining anyone's first playthrough, even of just early access or just Act 1, being less than 10 hours. That would strike me as odd, right? So even if in its early 1.0 early access build, I found the game to just be incredibly impressive. And since then, us fans have seen it just develop into a hell of a game. as far as at least Act 1 is concerned, right? Because in the past with Divinity Original Sin 2, Acts 1 and 2 were great, and then Act 3 left something to be desired. But so far, with just the sheer amount of lessons that Larian have learned from that game, I think they're well aware that fans are aware of that as well, that was a major hiccup of that game, and I'm sure they're seeking to rectify it here. But, you know, to backpedal, this game is a hell of a game already, so far as Act 1 is concerned, and I'm sure, and we've seen it just get better and better with continued fan feedback and each major patch rolling out. So that's why the hype here, it feels so different, you know what I mean? I would say I'm not someone who's played this game too much though, right? I've played through the game in the beginning of early access. Like I said, my first playthrough was like 15 hours, and I was okay, cool, I got my money's worth, only to then come back and do another playthrough once mods became, you know, more prominent and became more amazing. And that was, again, the beginning of early access. After that, I came back and did a playthrough once or twice once new classes dropped that I was really interested in, like Sorcerer, right? And then finally, recently, I came back to play again once level 5 was introduced. And, you know, since up until that, now that level 5's out, I've done a playthrough or two. I'm going to be letting the game sit still until it's fully released. So all in all, maybe 5 or 6 early access playthroughs, right? And while yeah, early on, it was very clear that there was a lot of features the community wanted in order to make this game amazing. Like, it desperately needed to address the issues with long rest and reactions. To see Larian over time just add in all those features and improve upon the game as a whole, man, I just can't wait to see the final product, you know? And with that being said, I think I've rambled on enough. This video is supposed to be more casual, but I do think I've rambled on enough, and I'm just gonna wrap it up here, right? This was just supposed to be kind of a short video, but it's one I've been wanting to make for a while now. After I realized Baldur's Gate 3, you know, it's been in early access for over 2 years at this point, and I've been wanting to make this video since then, and how I've just been more and more, well, progressively hyped about this game as time has passed, despite playing it several times already. I mean it, man. This game, I think, is going to be truly something special. I know the game still has definite areas it can be improved on. It might have its problems, but still, when I played 1.0 at the very beginning of early access, I was just floored with how much they learned from Divinity Original Sin 2 and used that to make such a kick-ass game right out the gate. Like I said, in its very first iteration of early access. It was something special, man. And also, fun fact, by the way, this game is what got me into Dungeons and Dragons, D&D, and tabletop RPGs. So for that, this is always going to be really special to me. So I know it may not have that effect on other people, but for me, like I said, this is my video on why this game is so special to me, why I'm just so massively hyped for that. So I'm hoping that this video can generate some hype for y'all as well in anticipation for this game coming out. And I hope it gives you a little peek into what I'm into as an RPG gamer, man. But so yeah, man, if y'all have made it to the end of this video, I just want to let you know I greatly appreciate you. And so please feel free to comment below. Let me know how you feel about Baldur's Gate 3 so far overall. If you've liked this video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. My name is Mr. Dora, and I'm going to catch y'all on the next video. Y'all be easy. Peace.